One thing that's going to be key for these people in relationships, not only may they develop qualities which make them comfortable with alternative like relationships, maybe open relationships, this, that, and the third, relationships that have more space to them. That's something that's 8 out of 10 times, 9 out of 10 times, it might be a quality here. Them wanting some form of space or their individuality respected in their relationship. This is why, they're not gonna be real judgment. These people are not judgmental of others. Like Aquarius in the 8th house, you can tell them anything, Mo. You can tell them anything. These people are not judgmental people because they don't want nobody judging them. They don't want nobody judging them, so they ain't finna judge you. And this is the phrase here. If you love them, set them free. That's Aquarius in the 8th house all day, every day. Vice versa, whether it's them or their partner. They're not going to try to be possessive over their partner. They're going to let their partner fly, let their wings fly. And at the same time, they may have energies where it's like they need their partner to let them do, not saying that they need to that they're going to want for their partner to just let them either cheat or just go crazy or whatnot in the world while they're in a relationship or while you connecting with them. They need to have that sense of their partner knowing they can trust them or give them a space to be them, still be the individual, still let them do them. Can't be super on top of these people like that. No. They're gonna be out of here. Cannot be super on top of these people. Cannot smother their space here. You don't want to smother nobody's space, but these ones, they're not gonna give you that many warnings or red flags. They may not even say. They're not gonna warn you about it. May not even say nothing about it. They pick up on that energy. They out of here. So they will set you free. They will set you free and let you be free, and they expect that in return. And the more you can do that in a crazy way, that's what builds the bond with them here. This is what makes them open up to you more. This is what makes them confide in you more. This is what makes them want to connect to you more. But you got to give them that space. You got to let them know that you can go handle what you got to handle in your schedule and do what you got to do without blowing their phone up or trying to include them into everything. They might prefer a life partner over marriage because things start getting shaky when we have to share resources and shit here. And things start getting a little shaky here, especially because they may have dealt with so many transformations in their life, being a part of a community, being a part of partnerships, business partnerships, group efforts. They may have dealt with some hidden agenda bullshit. They may have dealt with their resources getting mixed up on some bullshit with other people. So they may start to become reluctant with marriage and long-term commitment. And it's like, you know what? If anything says life partner, like set somebody free, if you love them, set somebody free, then I don't know. But that phrase alone says life partner over marriage. If you can set somebody free and know that they're going to do them and they still love you and you still got a bond, then there shouldn't be no issue with life partners and y'all having y'all unique agreement with what y'all relationship is. And then that brings me into inheritance. We got Saturn here. So inheritance may obviously, come from the father figure here. But what I see here a lot of the time is these people will be trusted with big positions in companies and groups and whatnot. These people could be trusted with big roles here, or they can be trusted managing heavy finances or whatnot. And especially because people love their ability to come up with alternative. They're very methodical when it comes to these things, right? They're going to be real solution based. A lot of ideas when it comes to accounting, managing finances.
With like charts, with reports that look at this is how my company did and we invested in this mutual fund. This is the evidence. Then another side of communication that comes in is scientific communication. It's a scientist, a teacher who's a science teacher, showing you about why global warming is happening. Global warming is happening because of the fact the water vapor is now suddenly starting to occur more often, and because of whatever gases that are occurring or maybe it's just the actual rhythmic pattern of our solar system going to the galactic plane, where now we're coming to a very heavy energy where all the weather pattern is going haywire, and he can present you with those kind of evidence, with maps, with diagrams, with graphs, with the information they have gathered through satellites. So it's the actual evident information that Mercury communicates, that Mercury gives as a knowledge base to you, and based on those facts, their whole communication, transpires to people. Now, they won't be like one of those, well, there's something called consciousness, and then through that consciousness, you are a immortal being living in a mortal world. These things may be true, maybe, may have a very, very deep meaning, but if somebody was to ask this Mercury, give us a proof, he'll be like, go meditate, go do self-realization, and you'll find that out. Well, you'll be like, okay, that requires work, and I don't even know if that's true because you haven't given me an evidence. So here Mercury kind of nitpicks with his analytical skills that what is true, what is not, and how can I communicate something with you with evidence, with logical perspective, with all the theories that are needed for me to convince my message to you. Okay, so here Mercury can become like really one of those people who either believe in astrology or don't believe in astrology. These are the people who says, well, I'll believe in astrology, give me a proof. So in a way it's a good thing. Like they will be like, okay, they want the proof, they want to challenge you. So it becomes they challenge people through their communication, through their analytical and logical perspective. But they'll be also like, okay, well, if let's say I gave somebody an evidence that, okay, look, you got a late marriage because Saturn is here, they'll still be like, well, that doesn't really prove anything because I just simply had this happen to me, and that's why I got married late. And look, everybody else is getting married late. Show me 100 other people with the same alignment who got married late. So he will keep pushing you, and only after sufficient evidence he'll be like, okay, I guess you prove your theory. The people with these kind of alignments and aspect from Saturn get married late. So in a way, it is a very important placement to have your Mercury in, because it becomes very scientific, very evidence-based intelligence of a person. But on the other hand, they can be very hard-headed. They can be like, no, I don't believe this. They'll completely reject the idea. They will only want to market the idea that they believe in, that they want the proof of. So that's what Mercury does in the sign of Aquarius. So guys, this is my analysis the qualities of Saturn, especially if Saturn is aspecting or in conjunction with Mercury. That Mercury is very going to be disciplined, hard, organized regarding everything that he speaks of. This is even better than Capricorn, because in Capricorn he's working long hours just to make sure everything is perfect. Here Mercury doesn't really have to work that hard, but Mercury is going to provide you with all the necessary evidence to back their report, to back their communication, to back what they say. So usually you can see this with mathematicians, physicists, scientists, people in the medical field who can really tell you, look, you have cancer because here's the proof. You see this x-ray, that little thing, that's a cancer. It's going to spread. Or you have this disease because this bacteria is here and I can prove it to you because of your blood test. So it's really good for Mercury to go into fields where they're in these environments where they're doing testing and research. Okay. The curse of Scorpio and Aquarius. Because as you have heard me over the year, talking about how sign of Scorpio as sign of Aquarius are karmic backlogged signs. Why is this? Well, it's quite simple. These two signs are co-ruled by two most malefic planets, which are Rahu and Ketu. Rahu co-rules the sign of Aquarius, Ketu co-rules the sign of Scorpio. Because Scorpio is ruled originally by Mars, and Aquarius is ruled by Saturn. Okay? And both of these planets are the shadow of these main planets. Ketu is a shadow of Mars. Rahu is a shadow of Saturn. Why is that? Because Mars is the charging army. Mars is a soldier who was advancing army. He goes out and he wants to take his soldier and try to conquer something. Ketu is somebody who has already conquered. Ketu is like, hey, I've already conquered this thing. You can't defeat me. You can't change this. I've already conquered what I had to conquer. Now, same thing with Rahu. Why is Rahu a reflection of Saturn? What is Saturn? Saturn is fear and an anxiety. What is Rahu? Rahu also brings fear and an anxiety. Saturn brings fear and an anxiety of the real world, real situations, like you not being able to pay your bills, or you not, having to get that perfect career, perfect marriage, that wealth that you wanted. That's a fear and an anxiety. Oh my God, I need everything perfect, otherwise everything's gonna go south. Same thing with Rahu. Rahu brings fear and anxiety, but of the illusional world, of the other world. Meaning that people who feel that they're haunted by ghosts, people who feel that they're going crazy, they're seeing things that they're not. Like if you go into the dark in a very old house in the middle of the night where nobody's around, what's going to happen? You're going to start imagining things. You're going to start thinking, there's something here. There's some entity here. That entity is nothing but Rahu being activated inside you. And yes, when it's active, that entity comes to life because it's nothing but manifestation of Rahu. This is why these two planets are controlling these two signs, and that is the main reason why they're really the karmic signs. And what you need to get out of this is this. Sign of Scorpio represents death of something because it controls the 8th house. Letting go of something, death of something. It'll feel like the world has come upon you and you're being buried underground. Like 8th house is things buried underground, so you're being buried underground. Okay? Then Aquarius is another karmic back sign because Aquarius is what? It's the 11th house of the zodiac belt. It is the 11th house of your birth chart. 11th house represents what? Gains. Liquid gains. Gains of money, gains of wealth and luxury and all kinds of materialistic items. What this is now doing karmically is now you have to give all these things away. You have to let go and sacrifice your gains in this life if you have one of these signs activated. Now, how are these signs activated? Let's discuss that. So how do the signs of Scorpio and Aquarius affect you? Well, the way they affect you is when they become ascendant lords in your life. And it's not necessarily just your birth chart that happens. It is also considered in your divisional chart. Like when somebody has a Scorpio ascendant, especially in their main birth chart, they feel like their whole life is just cursed. They feel like nothing goes right for them. They can have as much money as they want. They can have all the fame that they desire in the world. But somehow, some way, things happen in their life where they just feel like, I'm cursed. They like keep going to the point zero. They gain something, it becomes a death of it. They get something, it becomes a death of it. And this is why it becomes very hard life for these people to have. Same thing with the divisional chart. If you have a Scorpio rising in any divisional chart, that part of your life will feel like it's a curse. That part of your life will feel like it's a world coming down on you. So if you have a Scorpio Namansha, as in D9 chart, which represents your marriage and spouse, okay, in terms symbolically, even though it's strength of your planet, that's different. It's mainly representing your spouse. Scorpio ascendant there will show that your marriage will feel like a burden upon you. Your marriage will feel like a curse, like, oh my God, who did I get married to? What happened to me? Same thing with, let's say, your the Dasamsha chart. If your Dasamsha has Scorpio ascendant, your career will feel like a burden upon you. Anything you do career-wise will feel like it is like taking away your life. It will feel like you're just giving away your energy towards your career, and yet you're not reaping the rewards that you want. Or if you're reaping the rewards that you want, you're simply not being satisfied with it.
Date to वीडियो में मैं केतु के एक ट्रेट को डिस्कस करूंगी जो आई एम श्योर आप में से बहुत सारे लोगों ने केतु के टाइम पीरियड में ऑब्जर्व की होगी. केतु, एज वी नो, इट रिप्रेजेंट्स डिटैचमेंट. It represents a spiritual progression in one's life that comes through detachment. And detachment is never easy because it involves a lot of hurt and painful episodes that we go through to experience detachment. तो जब भी केतु की दशा स्टार्ट होनी होती है उसके पहले आपकी लाइफ में कोई ऐसी सिचुएशन होती है जहाँ पे आप किसी जगह से, किसी माहौल से, किसी पर्सन से अटैच्ड फील करने लगते हो और वो एक यूनिक अटैचमेंट हो सकता है. इफ़ आई टॉक अबाउट रिलेशनशिप, लेट्स से यू वर डेटिंग, you were meeting people before and you were not able to find that connect with someone. तो केतु की दशा के पहले ऐसा बहुत बार होता है that you meet someone amazing, you feel that connect, you feel that emotional connection, and so that you can go in that space of attachment and emotions, because later what you have to experience is detachment. So I'm not actually putting that fear inside you to be thinking that way, but ये जो ट्रेट है केतु की कि केतु की दशा आने से पहले आपकी लाइफ में ऐसी कोई सिचुएशन होती है जिससे आप अटैच्ड फील करने लगते हो या कोई ऐसा पर्सन होता है जिससे आप अटैच्ड फील करने लगते हो और उसको छोड़ना.
Is it right to take a major decision relating to your life, your career, marriage, and anything which holds a lot of magnitude and importance in your life? Is it right to take such decisions in your life during the Mahadasha of Ketu? So, a friend called me up day before yesterday and told me that, bro, I'm going through Ketu Mahadasha and my parents are asking me to get married. Should I get hitched? Should I get married? And he also told me that ever since this Ketu Mahadasha started, I am actually feeling like a headless chicken. I actually don't know what to do. I'm not able to keep myself stable. I'm behaving very weirdly. I'm not able to take decisions properly, and I don't know if it's the right time for me to go ahead with this decision. So not only is marriage something which is important in life, even career changes, job changes, taking a divorce, buying a property, or spending your money into an asset, a jewelry or something like that. All these things are very important decisions of your life because it creates a permanent impact. Now, Ketu Mahadasha is a planetary period where you have to be absolutely unmaterialistic in your life. Unmaterialistic means that you should not have materialistic desires, because Ketu doesn't want materialism. It doesn't want lust, it doesn't want money, it doesn't want greed, it doesn't want ambition, nothing. It just wants to exist without doing anything, and it wants to look inside and turn spiritual. Now, can you afford this time? Can you afford this spirituality? You cannot, because in today's modern age, it is totally impossible for you to totally get spiritual when you're working in a corporate company, or when you're working as a police officer, a cop, or somebody who is a politician or a diplomat, and whose decision making counts, whose opinion matters. So, if you're running a Mahadasha of Ketu, and if you are at this juncture where you have to take a major decision of your life, then you have come to the right spot, because I will be explaining to you the crux of it. So, hey guys, what's up? I hope you guys are doing great, and I welcome you back to Purab's Astrology. So, Ketu is separation, Ketu is unhappiness, Ketu is isolation, Ketu is depression, Ketu is headlessness, taking decisions rashly without understanding the consequences of it. Ketu is where we make mistakes in our life. We become careless. So So wherever Ketu is placed in whichever house, we tend to make mistakes in that particular sphere of our life. So if Ketu is placed in the 7th house, then we always end up getting in a relationship with the wrong sort of people and we get separated from it. Similarly, if Ketu is placed in the 10th house, we always tend to end up in the wrong career, wrong profession and wrong job, because of which we get a bit off in our life. So you need to understand that whenever you are running the Mahadasha, Antardasha or Pratyantar Dasha, that is the major planetary period and the sub periods of Ketu, you should not take any major decisions in your life in regards to money, career, relationships and matters which are of umpteen importance in your life. Because if you get married during the Antardasha of Ketu, sure shot you will get separated or your married life will not be good. If you change your job during the Antardasha of Ketu, sure shot you will take the wrong decision, you won't be able to fit inside the new company and you will lose that job. If you get transferred during Ketu, Antardasha, Pratyantar Dasha, Mahadasha or Sukshma Dasha, then that transfer will not be permanent. If you start any work during the sub period of Ketu, for example, you start a YouTube channel, this YouTube channel will shut down because this will not lead you into the right direction. So avoid taking any major decisions in your life during the Mahadasha, Antardasha, Pratyantar Dasha of Ketu, because if you do that, then you will be doing a big mistake, because Ketu is apathetic. Ketu doesn't like happiness, materialism, money, fame, glamour and things like that. So if you sign a movie during the planetary subperiod of Ketu, then that movie will not get shot, and even if it gets shot, it won't release. So avoid taking any major decisions during the subperiods of Ketu. So keep this advice in mind. Social, that is where we feel cut off and suddenly there are things which separate us totally. It is a cutoff factor of Ketu Mahadasha, and whenever this Ketu gets triggered in your horoscope through Mahadasha, Antardasha, in any layer, that is where we feel unsocial, that is where we feel cut off, and suddenly there are things which separate us totally from the significance of that particular house where Ketu is placed in our horoscope. So I am about to explain the reason behind the cutoff factor of Ketu Mahadasha in astrology. So if you want to know about the secret, then first you have to subscribe to Purab's Astrology, guys, because only if you subscribe to Purab's Astrology, then you will get access to watching this video till the end. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you dislike this video, please. Factor of Ketu Mahadasha. I welcome you back to Purab's Astrology. Let's understand why do we feel unsocial, different, cut off. We don't feel like interacting with anybody. Even if we try to interact, something goes wrong and we cannot break that invisible barrier. And during Ketu Mahadasha especially, the materialistic comforts gets cut off, right? The income, the wealth and all these things, either the interest cuts off or in the physical plane, the coming and inflow of money cuts off, and because of that, we slowly feel a cutoff factor. So first I would start with the horoscope of Kalpurush, right guys? So in the horoscope of Kalpurush, that is the natural horoscope of the Aries ascendant, the universal man, the 8th house is given to Scorpio sign. So the Scorpio Rashi or the Scorpio zodiac sign controls the 8th house of the horoscope. Now fundamentally, let us understand what is the 8th house. The 8th house is the house of transformation. The 8th house is the house of accidents. The 8th house is the house of secret activity, secret research. The 8th house is the house of your in-laws. The 8th house is the house of surgeries, sudden happenings. The 8th house is also the house of war, sudden war. The 8th house is the controller of longevity. So it is the 8th house from where the longevity is judged in a horoscope. And Saturn becomes the Karaka or the significator of the 8th house in your horoscope, in everybody's horoscope, right? So such a secretive house, such a deep and mysterious house, controlling such different elements like transformation, like accidents, like sudden happenings, right? This 8th house is assigned to Scorpio sign, and this Scorpio sign is known to be ruled by the planet Mars. But people fail to read the scriptures, and people fail to understand that the planet Ketu is also the co-lord or the sub-ruler or the partner along with Mars, which rules the 8th house of Kalpurush. So Mars controls Aries also and Scorpio also, right? So this Mars controlling Aries and Scorpio has two different sides of producing results, but Ketu only rules Scorpio, co-rules Scorpio. So wherever Ketu will be placed in your horoscope, if it is in the 1st house or 2nd or 3rd or 4th or 5th or 6th, 7th, 8th, 10th, whichever house Ketu will be placed in your horoscope, in that particular house, Ketu will take the element of Scorpio and it will deliver the element of Scorpio in that particular house. So Ketu will create secret tendency, because the 8th house is the house of underground, a pit, darkness, underworld, where nobody can see you, nobody knows that you are present there. It's deep inside darkness. Imagine at the bed of Dead Sea, how it would be, totally dark and secretive. There will be no light, there will be no normalcy.
Hey guys, today I'm going to tell you
Normalcy. So it is a very abnormal energy, and Ketu ruling this abnormal energy takes it and delivers abnormality to that particular house where Ketu is placed. So if Ketu is placed in the 3rd house, then whenever you will run the Dasha, Antardasha or planetary period of Ketu, you will want to cut off from your neighbors, you would want to cut off from your siblings, you would want to cut off from communication, from meeting people, from making short distance travel, because Ketu is a secret planet, it is not materialistic, and all these things of the 3rd house, communication, speech, media, marketing, your cousins, your brothers, and all these things, these are enjoyment or desire oriented things, because the 3rd house is a Kama house. Okay, so whenever you will start a Ketu Mahadasha or Antardasha, you will feel the cutoff effect, you will feel separated, detached, you would not want to linger in the things of the 3rd house. Similarly, if Ketu is placed in your 4th house, right? So now Ketu is taking the energy of transformation, accidents, secrecy, sudden happenings, unmaterialism, and all these things, and Ketu is delivering that energy to the 4th house of mother, property, land, comforts, building, vehicles, etc., etc., etc. So you will have properties, but during the Ketu Mahadasha or Antardasha, you will feel a detachment or cut-off feeling from your properties, your mother, your family, your parents, your assets, everything which is controlled by the 4th house, and this will be there till you complete the Ketu period, especially during the Ketu period, the 7 years period. So the Ketu Mahadasha and the Ketu Antardasha, that will be the major period where you will feel this cut-off factor of Ketu at the most depth. Now if Ketu is placed in the 7th house, so the 8th energy, the Scorpio energy, Ketu ruling this energy is coming to the 7th house. So it is making your business, your spouse, your partnership, your daily routine, meeting people outside your opposite world, all these things, there will be a cutoff factor which you will experience. So you would not want to have an interaction with your spouse, you would want to cut yourself off or separate yourself off from partnership, right? If you are doing a business, for example trading, if you have a provision store or if you have a bangle shop where you sit every day at the shop and you do a lot of trading, so your trading business will come down and you will feel unsocial, you wouldn't want to do business anymore, because the cutoff factor of Ketu carrying the energy of the Scorpio is being delivered here. So because of that you will feel that cutoff factor. So this cutoff factor of Ketu has a specific reason. Why is it that most of the people, there are exceptions, during Ketu Mahadasha when people do extremely well materialistically, that happens when the Lord of the Ketu is exalted or placed in own sign or in Kendra, that is when the cutoff factor is a bit less. But generally 85% of the time people feel this cutoff tendency, the separative, the unsocial, the secretive tendency during the Ketu period. So why does Ketu give you this cutoff factor? Why does Ketu make you feel separative? Why does Ketu make you feel cut off? Why does Ketu make you feel to hide from the society, to hide from the community and not do anything related to the mundane life? Because Ketu wants you to become inwards, become spiritual. Ketu wants you to realize that all these things of the materialistic world has no value, and the reality is that nothing is going to stay with you. So if you actually understand it before itself, for example, if you have a 7th house Ketu and now you know that during Ketu Mahadasha you will feel the cutoff factor, why don't you become more spiritual during that time? So instead of having a physical interaction with your business partner, instead of having a physical relationship with your spouse, why don't you choose to make your relationship with your business partner, your spouse, spiritual, pure, at least during the major period and sub period, that is the Mahadasha and the Antardasha of Ketu, that is Ketu. If you try to do this, then you will be benefited. Ketu will not harm you that much as it would without the knowledge of this cutoff factor of Ketu. Similarly, if Ketu is placed in the 4th house, why don't you turn your home into a spiritual place? Why don't you start worshipping? Why don't you start meditating and things like that? Why don't you turn spiritual? Why don't you turn your family, your parents and everybody spiritual? Why don't you make a small temple of Ganesha at your home during the Ketu Mahadasha and the Ketu sub period? Then the cutoff factor will come down and you will survive the Ketu period. So I hope I have made
Welcome back to Vedic Astrology. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about Ketu Mahadasha. This is a period for 7 years. It comes immediately after Mercury Mahadasha, and then after Ketu you have the Venus Dasha. Ketu is actually the headless part of Rahu. So Rahu and Ketu are always on the same axis, because if Rahu is the head, the headless part is Ketu, always 180 degrees on the opposite side. So if you have Rahu in the 4th house, then Ketu will always be in the 10th house. So they never be together. If you understand what Ketu is, then you will understand what Ketu Mahadasha is likely to do to a person. Ketu basically is a spiritual planet. So this is the key to understanding Ketu Mahadasha. When does one turn to the spiritual side of life? If you examine this, then you can anticipate in which areas of your life you're going to get into trouble during the Mahadasha of Ketu. In the case of couples who already have troubled marriage in their horoscope, or if two incompatible people got together, then during a bad Ketu Dasha, you are most likely to separate. Sometimes it may be separation due to some other reason, not exactly a fight that is leading to divorce. Sometimes it may be that the husband has to go away to a far off place. And there are so many ways separation can happen, not necessarily only through a fight. But most probably, if there are indications for a troubled marriage, then Ketu Dasha is likely to cause divorce. Another way of looking at Ketu is the headless part. So that means that a person going through this Dasha will lose his head, meaning that he will suddenly become a little different from, when you say how he was so nice, such a nice person before Ketu began. Maybe he was holding a very high post, or he was perfectly healthy and so on. But when Ketu Dasha comes, all that changes. There is a sudden fall and there is a sudden dip in the mental capabilities of a person. In rare cases, people who have been absolutely normal during the previous dashas suddenly start contemplating on suicide, some with good reasons and some without. The other thing that you will notice in Ketu Dasha is it teaches you a lot of things about life, especially from the point of view of the illusory aspect of life, that things are transient and nothing is permanent. So all that you have been building up until Buddha Dasha, it looked all very fine, and you always thought that you are capable of doing everything, and then when suddenly Ketu Dasha comes, you find that it is not true. The things that you made with your own hands, just start disappearing from your hand. It just melts. It's like holding sugar in water, it's all there. It was so nice, but then when you start looking at it, there's nothing there. It just disappears. Very healthy people get into serious, diseases and ailments, and their lifestyle completely changes during Ketu Dasha. Many people who have been the CEOs have tumbled down, and they never actually got back their positions, even after the next Dasha came, except if the next Dasha, that is, if Venus was auspiciously and very powerfully placed in their horoscope. We should understand that Ketu wants us to look into the spiritual world, and that's all it wants. Look into the spiritual world, and that's all it wants. Ketu Dasha will cause many events in life that will make us turn into the spiritual side of life. Many people lose their father or mother during this period, or sometimes a grandfather who has been a very important person in their life. So, when they go to the funeral service, they realize that, all this, whatever has happened, seems like it was not true. Did my grandfather really exist? Or did my father really exist? Was he there? Where is he now? All these questions arise in one's mind during the Dasha of Ketu. So, before Ketu gets you, you will have to get into a situation which matches what Ketu wants you to get into. So, if Ketu wants you to become renounced, you don't have to actually renounce the world. That would be too difficult for many people. All you have to do is start looking into the spiritual side of life. Read your scriptures every day of your life throughout Ketu Dasha. That is the number one remedy. Try to go to the places of worship that are associated with your religion. Try to do all the fastings that are associated with your religion without fail, and be very strict about it. Chant the name of your God without fail every day of your life. So much, it is not for a 1 month of a year. Try to do it across the year, across 365 days of the entire year, and then that multiplied into 7 years. So if you can do this, then Ketu is really not going to be a troublesome Dasha. You need to be particularly careful if Ketu happens to be in the 2nd house, the 8th house, or the 12th. It is really bad if it is in the 8th or the 12th house, and to a large extent it is also bad if it is in the 2nd house. All other places Ketu is not all that bad. So you have 9 sub-periods within Ketu, and depending upon the sub-periods you will find the breathing space. So it's not that the whole 7 years is going to be like this, but somewhere in between there would be a time in one of the bad sub-periods Ketu is likely to catch you. In most cases, Ketu always gets worse during the last 1/3 of its period, which is 2 years and 4 months, just before it ends. So subtract 2 years and 4 months from the date on which it ends, and that is the last 1/3 of Ketu Dasha. For Hindus, I always recommend the worship of Lord Ganesha. Lord Ganesha represents the opposite of duality. That is why he has one single tusk. Reminds us that there is no two things about life. There is only one. There is only one God. In case you have your own favorite gods, and the God does whichever way you want, you can pray. But the main thing is that you reach out to a superior force that is running this universe. So I often tell people at least act like a sannyasi during Ketu Dasha. Speak a lot about religion, your religion, speak about the one God concept, and try to go to pilgrimages, go to holy places. If depending upon your religion, you can do that, and I'm sure you will be able to manage Ketu Dasha if you do all these things. You don't have to really think that Vedic astrology is preaching destiny. It is not. Vedic astrology tells you that these things are most likely to happen, and it is up to you. It is in your hands whether you can change it or not. If you know what is coming up ahead, I'm sure you can actually work towards changing it, because this karma was created by each one of us, and only we can actually change our karma. We should not depend on others. We should not think that other people will find a solution for you. You will have to reach out to God, and this is the best message or the best solution in Ketu Mahadasha. And you can also read the article Ketu Dasha, Oh My God, which I have written on wordpress.com, and you can see the various comments which proves the power of Ketu Dasha, what it has already done to people. People are there, giving their feedbacks. So you should also take it seriously. I have used the title Ketu Dasha, Oh My God, only to tell you that you have to remember your God.
Like पॉलिटिशियन के चार्ट हो गए, क्रिमिनल्स के चार्ट हो गए, फिर उसके बाद स्पोर्ट्समैन, एथलेटिक्स, जितने भी सारे हैं उनके चार्ट जब मैंने स्टडीज किए, और जो नॉर्मल इंसान है हम और आप जैसे, तो बहुत सारे ऐसे चीज है ना जो
Fun and how much predictive it really becomes even for a beginner like you. Okay, like with Gemini and its dashas, astrology becomes more simplified. I can see this because of the fact I have so much extensive knowledge of Parashara astrology that I'm teaching you right now. But when you add Gemini, it just everything comes together. Okay, and so today I want to talk about Chara Dasha. I've talked about Vimshotri Dasha. I've talked about how to predict certain things from there, and it's a bit more complicated. But when you talk about Chara Dasha, it is really simple. Really simple. And that's when you'll start to see the little things that, why is it that in my period of excelled 10th house Lord, sitting in the 10th house, I just managed to somehow lose my job. And it's how I managed to get demoted from my work. So that's what we're going to see that today. Okay. So like in Vimshotri Dasha, where your Dasha starts from the Lord of the Nakshatra where the moon is placed, and by looking at the Pada, if it's in the first Pada, second Pada, third Pada, fourth Pada, it'll show you how large or small your very first Dasha is going to be. So let's say if your moon is in the fourth Pada of Rohini Nakshatra, that means you started your life with your moon Mahadasha, yet it was a very little Dasha because it was in the fourth period, it was in the fourth quarter, it was just about to move to the other sign. But in the Chara Dasha, planets do not have Mahadashas. It's not like you go through Mahadasha of Mars and Moon and Jupiter and Saturn. You actually go through the Dasha of signs. So let's say if you started out your life with Capricorn ascendant, or you started out your life with Taurus ascendant, your life will then start out with Taurus Chara Dasha. And what will happen, it'll move backwards. So from Taurus Mahadasha, it could be 6 years, 10 years. I don't want to get into all that right now of calculative things, but after Taurus, you will run through then your Aries Chara Dasha. After that, you will run through your Pisces Chara Dasha. After that, you will run through your Aquarius Chara Dasha. Okay? And they will not be going simultaneously as the Vimshotri Dasha. So if you're running through your period of Mars in the third house, in Vimshotri Dasha, you might be running through the period of Taurus, or I'm sorry, you might be running through the period of Scorpio in the 7th house Dasha. So you might be running through your Scorpio 7th house Dasha. And then the way you merge them together is how you start to see why certain things happen in life. Like I'll tell you, many of you might be thinking, oh, this is just going to be a contradicting method, because one dasha will say one thing, the other dasha will say the other thing, and astrology is going to be screwed up. And that's where you're wrong. Because here's the thing. Let's say if somebody's going through their Saturn Mahadasha, okay, and Saturn is the 10th house, exalted, and yet they flourished in their career. Saturn is becoming part of a Raj Yoga, and it's also giving rise to career in that 19-year period, okay? But then you suddenly, after like 7 years of Saturn time period, within that 7 years of Saturn Mahadasha, you suddenly got demoted and you lost your work, or you got fired, you got laid off. And now you're sitting back and thinking, why the hell is it that my Saturn Dasha that's supposed to protect me here is now demoting me, okay? That will be seen through Chara Dasha. Let's say if you rose in your career, in your Saturn Mahadasha, okay? But Saturn Mahadasha is not really talking about marriage. But Chara Dasha tells you that you will get married and you will have kids in this time period. So you see how you took two different Mahadasha and came to a single conclusion. So if you're an astrologer, like Juan Paul Manley, he would be like, okay, so you had academic success or you had career success in this time period, and you also got divorced in this time period, or you got married in this time period. Where Saturn Mahadasha wasn't really talking about divorce or anything to do with divorce, or it wasn't talking about anything with marriage with Saturn, but because of Chara Dasha, everything was simplified. So that's what we're going to discuss today. Now, certain Chara Dashas will move clockwise and certain Chara Dasha will move counterclockwise. So let's say if you are an Aries ascendant, your first Chara Dasha started with Aries, like everybody else. But will it move forward to Taurus or backwards to Pisces? That depends on the sign. So Aries will move forward. Aries will go first. Your first Chara Dasha will be Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, all the way to the 12th house, and it'll repeat again. But let's say if you're Taurus ascendant, okay, you will move backwards in your Chara Dasha. So for Taurus, you'll start your Mahadasha with Taurus, and then you'll move to Aries, and then you'll move to Pisces in the 11th house, then you'll move to Aquarius in the 10th house, so you'll go backwards. So those are things you got to remember. Like I have my notes here. So Aries, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Aquarius, and Pisces will go forward. And rest of them will move backwards. But don't worry about all the calculation and all that. Once you have the software, once you get your full horoscope and look at the Chara Dasha and just go from there. Whether it's moving forward or backwards, don't worry about this. Just look what house and sign that Chara Dasha is off and what planets are from what angle. So I'm going to give you an example today of how somebody who's going through a very brilliant Dasha,
turn your warm memories into,
that's supposed to give rise in career, yet at the same time gives fall in career. And even though transits play their part, like if your excelled planet in the 10th house is debilitated during transit, you may have some trouble, okay? But to just really easily pinpoint that you're going to have trouble in this time period with career, that you will use Chara Dasha. Okay, so like you see here on this chart, you have Taurus ascendant with Rahu in the ascendant, Ketu and Mercury in the 7th house. You have Mars in Cancer in the 3rd house. You have Jupiter and Moon in the 5th house. And you have Venus and Sun in the 8th house in the sign of Sagittarius. And Saturn is in the 10th house in Aquarius. Okay, so let's just pretend this is a chart of somebody. And let's pretend that this person is going through their Saturn Mahadasha in their 30s. And so imagine they started their Mahadasha, they got a rise in career, they're working as a stockbroker or financial analyst at a big, huge company. Okay, and their Saturn, they're in the middle of Saturn Dasha, everything is fine and dandy. But then what you forgot to look is their Chara Dasha. So let's say if this person is going through Vimshotri Dasha of Saturn, but this person then goes to Chara Dasha of Libra, which is in the 6th house. How would you look at this? Now, it doesn't matter if it's a 8th house or 6th house Chara Dasha. These are just signs, okay? There's no exaltation or debilitation of signs. Like, oh, your Libra is debilitated in the 6th house, so he's going to have a bad result. No. Just like in Vimshotri Dasha, you take the Lord whose Dasha you're running to, you put it in the ascendant to also look at the Antra Dasha. When you are judging Chara Dasha, you will take that Chara Dasha sign. So if this person is also going through the Chara Dasha of Libra, put Libra in the ascendant. Put Libra as the ascendant. So now when you put Libra as the ascendant, look at this chart. You see Mars, who's debilitated in Cancer, is sitting in the 10th house. So in middle of Saturn Mahadasha, when Chara Dasha of Libra started, the Mars was 10th from the Libra. It was 10 places away from Libra sign, meaning that this Chara Dasha is now dealing with his career. And Mars, in setting in the sign of Cancer, activated itself. So what happened during Libra Chara Dasha? This person suddenly got demoted. And that time period of Libra Dasha, whatever time period it is, it can 10 years, 8 years, 7 years, they go by different timings like Vimshotri Dasha. For that time period, this person is going to suffer the fall in their career. But after that Chara Dasha is over, and then this person moves to their Jupiter Chara Dasha, they might rise up again. So this is how you start to look at things. Now, if you noticed, in Libra Chara Dasha, Ketu and Mercury are sitting in the 2nd house. And Mercury is also the lord of 12th house of losses. And Ketu is already letting go of material things. It makes you beg for things. So during that Chara Dasha of Libra, it also shows that the person's savings also were drained. They lost their assets. Maybe because when they got demoted and lost their job, they had to revert to their savings to pay for their bills. And that whole time, they also lost their savings. So look at it from this perspective of too, not just career. Look at where every other planet is. You know, and I know Rahu and Ketu are not Karakas, but they're in a certain house now. They're in a certain sign. Okay? And also look at the aspects of Jaimini Chara Dasha. Now, in Chara Dasha, you can also see marriage. You can also see the Libra and Aries are in the 1st and 7th axis. So in Chara Dasha of Libra and sub-period of Aries, so Libra and Aries period, you can get married. And also, if you noticed, I put these Karka names on the planet. Like Mars is a Ghatni Karka. Mars is becoming the Karka of the obstacle, death, diseases, and obstruction. Where Saturn is the Atma Karka and Jupiter is the Amatya Karka. So when Libra Chara Dasha started, and Mars was acting and not only in the 10th house showing career, but it was also Ghatni Karka, meaning that it was a Karka of obstacles. So in Chara Dasha of Libra, it brought obstacles, deaths, even diseases to the person. And for that 7-8 area period, they were just suffering. But then suddenly in same Saturn Mahadasha, this person arose again. Because the Chara Dasha changed from Libra to Virgo. And Saturn and Jupiter and Moon are sitting in Virgo. And in Parashara, they're creating a Gaj Kesari Yoga. So you should start looking at your chart in this manner. Now let me give you a same example, but with a bit more detail. So let's say this person started their Libra Charadhasha and they saw, oh my God, my Mars is in the 10th house. I'm gonna get demoted. But then this person doesn't really get demoted. This person does fine, even in their Libra Charadhasha. What comes to play now? What comes to play now is the divisional charts, like Nemansha. So just pretend if this is the Nemansha chart that on the screen of this person. Okay, it may not be the proper Nemansha chart. I just made this up quickly. Mars is now excelled in Nemansha in the 7th house, and it aspects the 10th house in Nemansha. So now if you go back to your D1 chart, what will happen to career? Well, career will be fine. This person will still do fine. Yet, since Mars
Hey guys, it's been a while since I've taken you through my skincare.
is a Ghatani Karaka of diseases, obstacles, they will go through some sort of a sickness. They will face obstacles in that time period. The foundation of that house will be shaken a little bit, but it won't be that the house will fall. They will go through some trouble, but they'll come out of it. And this is just the very basic of Charadhasha. I'm still learning, I am still going over charts, and I'm still going deeper into it. Like in Jaimini astrology, there's also Raj Yogas and Dhan Yogas. Usually, one of the best the Raj Yogas is when Atma Karka and Amatya Karka are sitting together in one house or aspect each other through Jaimini aspect or Parashara mutual aspect. Yet, to confirm that Raj Yoga, that same Raj Yoga between Atma Karka and Amatya Karka should be present in Nemansha chart. And only then it will show the 100% accuracy of the Raj Yoga. Same thing with Parashara. Raj Yoga is occurring in your between your 10th and 9th Lord or 10th and 5th Lord. Yet in Nemansha, both the planets are debilitated and they don't have any link to each other. Raj Yoga nullifies itself. Okay? But in that same time period, if your Atma Karka and Amatya Karka are playing a role, you rise in life. So you see how you can integrate two systems into one and make a beautiful prediction. So if you go to K.N. Rao, if you go to Juan Paul Manley, you go to Mark Boney, and they're like, you know, you got married in this time period, but at the same time you got fired from your job. So although you were running through a beautiful time period for marriage, you were running through a bad, probably Charadhasha period of your career. And this is how you should start interlacing them together. Now, another thing you must have noticed is from Parashara side, debilitated Mars aspects Saturn with its 8th aspect. Okay? But in Jaimini, both Mars and Saturn aspect each other. That is creating a very turbulent sambandha, very turbulent placement, because both are enemies and is creating a war zone. And at the same time, Atma Karka is now in yoga with Ghatni Karka, meaning that your physical self now has a sambandha with a planet that is here to destroy your physical self. So guys, this was my very, very basic explanation of how Charadhasha works.
It'll be the home life. So for Donald Trump, the home life may be troubled, especially with the spouse, because it's the Cancer Dasha, that's the home, and it holds the indicator of the marriage partner. When I was in the Scorpio Dasha, it was mainly about astrology. My most powerful, most important.
At a certain placement of the moon in your birth chart, in a certain nakshatra, you are probably going through a 10-year cycle of moon. And then after that, you're going to go 7-year cycle of Mars. Then after that, you're going to go 18-year cycle of Rahu, then 16-year cycle of Jupiter, then 19-year cycle of Saturn. So you see how in your life, these planets, a single planet is really controlling majority of your life. Okay, but then the problem comes in that if you're just going through, let's say, Jupiter Dasha, and Jupiter is sitting in your 7th house. That means that the 16-year, are you just going to be dealing with your marriage partner and agreements and that's it? Is that all you're going to be doing? You're not going to be dealing with debts. You're not going to be dealing with mortgage, your education, your home and family. No, you're going to deal with everything. However, majority of that 16-year period is controlled by Jupiter. Okay, so the situation of the 7th house are become the major part of your dasha. And the houses that Jupiter are ruling. So if Jupiter is in the 7th house, and it's ruling the 11th and the 2nd house for Aquarius ascendant. So Jupiter is going to give you the results of the 7th house, including the fact the houses that he's controlling, 11th and 2nd house. But then these mini periods come in the 16-year. The mini periods could be anywhere from 6 months to a year and a half. And so these mini periods are known as Antradasha. So Dasha is major part, and then little bitty other planetary time periods comes in. So while Jupiter is giving you situations of the 7th house, okay, then other planets will come as well. Jupiter will go through Saturn's sub-period, its own sub-period of Jupiter. It'll go through Rahu, Ketu, Venus, Mercury, Saturn, Sun, Moon, Mars. All of these sub-periods will come in that 16-year. And so you'll be experiencing all of these other things. However, you will be experiencing these small little avenues through the 7th house experiences. Meaning that through your wife, you may experience debt, which is the 6th house Lord Antradasha that may come. You might go to foreign land with your partner or your wife or your husband if the 12th or 9th house Lord Antradasha came in. If the 5th house Antradasha came in, then you may actually meet your wife through education, entertainment pursuits. You may go through a lot of creativity and educational pursuits through the resources of the 7th house. So in a major period, all these sub-periods that come in validate the 7th house period. So not only are they bringing the situations that they're controlling, the sub-periods, which is known as Antradasha, they're validating the period of the 7th house. So because majority of that period is Jupiter. And in that, sub-periods are coming in that are giving you conditions of other houses through the 7th house. So through the 7th house situations, you're literally experiencing every other situations in your life. So you see how one planet is not really controlling your entire 16-year period or 10-year period. Every planet will have sub-planetary periods that come in and bring you those situations. So there are a lot of techniques to see a dasha. But let me make your world a bit more complicated and a bit more tougher here. Okay? And this is why it takes a long time to really grasp, to get a hold on a horoscope through dasha. Is that not only you're going to look at the NBC chart or your birth chart, you're also going to look at the D9 chart. You're going to look at a D3 chart. You're going to look at the D10 chart. Okay? And you're going to look at the Mahadasha Lord position in the main birth chart, in the NBC chart, in Saptamesh chart, in the Samsha chart, Navamsha chart. Okay? And you're going to see where is this, how's the condition of this planet in those houses and signs. Okay? Because in that 16-year period, any person can experience a gazillion things in their life. They can have ups and downs and then rise again in the same thing. So let's say if a person starts their Saturn dasha and they rise up for the first 4 years in their dasha, they get all the promotion, they get all the success in their field, they get married, and then suddenly within 5 years they come down to where they're filing for bankruptcy. They do not know where to go. They don't know where to live now. They're living with the family moves in with the parents, and now their mind is going haywire. What happened? I thought my life is good. And then within 2 years, something happens where this person rises up again, and he goes not only to the position where he started from, he goes even higher than that. This is seen from divisional charts. That not only your Saturn in the main birth chart, which was excelled, helping you and giving you the good time in that dasha, But in the D9 chart, if it's debilitated, it's also bringing you problems, okay? And in the NBC chart, where it's now not excelled and it's in Virgo in the 6th house, it's giving you debts. So it's giving you a lot of problems and obstacles. But when you look at your D10 chart, it has a niche Bhangraj Yoga in your D10 chart. Then what it shows is that, okay, this person rose in life, went down in life, but due to their niche Bhanga in the D10 chart, they rose up again. And once an astrologer looks at these things, but since we're talking about Antradasha, the small sub-planetary time period, you want to make sure that none of these Antradasha planetary planets are sitting in Dushtana houses, meaning that 6th, 8th, and 12th house. Make sure they're in the Kendra and Trikona houses, and especially if they're in the 3rd and the 11th house, that shows a lot of courage and gain in those Antradashas. And not only this, you have to look at it in the divisional charts as well. Are they well placed in the divisional charts or not? Are they in Kendra and Trikona in the divisional charts, like the D3, D9, and D10 chart? Or are they not? Because if they're not, and while your Saturn is excelled in your D1 chart, then you know that you're also going to be experiencing these other things or these other hardships that are shown in the divisional charts. It's not just about the sublord period being in the 6th house, 8th house, or 12th house. If they are 6th, 8th, or 12th place from the Dasha Lord itself. So if you're going through that Jupiter Dasha in the 7th house and Mercury is in the 2nd house, what does that tell you? That tells you that Mercury is 8th from Jupiter. That means it may give sudden events. And since it's in the 2nd house of wealth and family, sudden fluctuations in family, meaning that sudden fights in family and then you suddenly get better, sudden fluctuation in your savings, you lose money or you can suddenly gain money. Okay, you can suddenly lose money and gain money. And this is how you have to look at it. And this is why, ladies and gentlemen, there are such a small percentage of people in this world who are able to succeed all throughout their life because of the fact all these things just come together perfectly. Whether it's not just their chart having good planets in there, but also the Dasha Lord and their placement and the Antradasha Lord and their placement are good, not just in the birth chart, but in the divisional chart as well. And, this is why, once you look at all the minute things, then you can see, how the percentage just shrinks from you being at the bottom to you being at the top of the pecking order. But again, you can beat all of these things. You can beat all of these things if you just, concentrate yourself onto that ultimate source power, that source energy. Once you do that and you forget all these things, the planet and the combination of planets are all controlled by the source energy itself. So anytime you have a problem, a smart person will say, don't go to the manager of that store. Don't go to the manager of the company. Go to the actual owner at the corporate office. And that's when you will get your things done. It's the same way. So just because you have a bad dasha and a bad planetary time period, don't go and try to do remedies of planets through rings and pujas and mantras. No, go directly to the source energy and connect with it. And that's when all these planets, mellow down. And the effects that you will get will be through the blessings of the source energy and not the planets. And I will keep saying it in the future, and I've said it in the past as well. So once you look at all these 3 charts, including your NBC chart, then you see, okay, am I really going to have all the good results majority of the time in these sub periods, or am I going to experience mixed results? That means ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. And then how do you judge when you're going to have the ups and downs? Is you look at a certain sub period planet in the sub period, and to see if I have excelled Saturn dasha, and Saturn is well placed in all the divisional charts, but then you go through a Mercury dasha where Mercury is not well placed in your birth chart, but then is averagely placed in your divisional chart, then there's going to be some trouble regarding the houses that Mercury is placed in and what it's doing. And this is how you have to connect your brain. Your entire brain needs to suddenly make a connection with all these different scenarios and give you a result, or an astrologer gives you a result that, okay, this is what's going to be happening in your chart.
You will see that I have a table displayed here, And this table is for the people who are beginners in Vedic numerology. So if you are a beginner, like a newborn baby, when it comes to numerology, this table is something you might want to remember and store it in your mind and in your memory throughout the time you do or Vedic numerology, because this is very important. So in this table, I have number, the planet associated with that number, and the day of the week that the planet rules. So number 1 is for sun, and sun rules Sunday. Number 2 is for moon, and moon rules Monday. Number 3 is for Jupiter, which rules Thursday. Number 4 is for Rahu, which does not rule any day. Number 5 is for Mercury, which rules Wednesday. Number 6 is for Venus, which rules Friday. Number 7 is for Ketu, which does not rule any day of the week. 8 is for Saturn, and it rules Saturday. And 9 is for Mars, which rules Tuesday. Okay, so once we have this cleared out, I just want to let you guys know that in this video further on, we will be using some of the information from this from this table. Okay, so let's begin with the Mahadasha. And also I just want to let you guys know that, okay, so if we have, let's say, like I said, we will be discussing Mahadasha, Antardasha, and Pratyantardasha. So Mahadasha is like the main one, and after that Antardasha is the sub period. Whoops. And under the Antardasha sub period, we have Pratyantardasha, which is sub period. Okay, so let's get on to our calculation with Mahadasha first. All right, so here I am going to take an example date of birth of a person. Let's say, okay, I will say June 8th, 1993. Okay, so let me just write it like this. Now let me write it other way. So this is the date, this is the month, and this is the year. I like to label it under, that way people don't get confused. All right, so now we have to find the destiny number and the basic number of this date of birth, right? So as you guys know, I did explain it in my previous video. If you guys have not watched it, you guys might want to watch how to calculate the destiny number and the basic number. So this person will have Mars Dasha, which is number 9 Dasha. And after 9, we go to 1. Okay, so from June 8, 2010 to June 7, 2011, this person will be running Sun Dasha, which is also number 1. Okay, and you just continue it as much as you like. Now I got 2013, that's because after that we have to add 2, right? Which is Moon Dasha. So from 2013 he will have Jupiter Dasha. After that, Rahu Dasha. So you just keep counting as much as you want until whatever year you want to know the Mahadasha for. So right now, when I'm making this video, we are in 2022, right? So right now, if you were to look, this person is in which Mahadasha? If you guessed Mercury, then you're right. Okay, so June 8th, 2025 to June 7, 2031, this person will have Venus Dasha, which is number 6. And you just, continue. After you reach 9, you go back to 1, okay? Okay, and you just keep going on and on, okay? So I'm not going to calculate further because you guys, I think, got the idea. After that, you add 9 to this year, then you go back to 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth, okay? So this is how we calculate Mahadasha. From June 7, Moon Dasha. So from 2013, he will have Jupiter Dasha. After that, Rahu Dasha. So you just keep counting as much as you want until whatever year you want to know the Mahadasha for. So right now, when I'm making this video, we are in 2022, right? So right now, if you were to look, this person is in which Mahadasha? If you guessed Mercury, then you're right. Okay, so June 8th, 2025 to June 7, 2031, this person will have Venus Dasha, which is number 6. And you just, continue. After you reach 9, you go back to 1, okay? Okay, and you just keep going on and on, okay? So I'm not...
A lot of people talk about karmic lessons, but nobody tends to elaborate on them. Ketu takes it on himself to come and remind you about those karmic debts that you're carrying. Parents watching this, please help your teenager, your kids, if they are going through Ketu Antardasha. Hello guys, welcome back to Dev Astrology. Today I'm starting a new series where I will be walking you guys through the Mahadashas of the planets. And what better it could be starting with Ketu Mahadasha, the toughest of all, 7 years of hell as they say on this planet Earth. Well, we're not just going to be talking about the Ketu Mahadasha and the Antardasha of the planets, but I'll also talk about how you can face that Mahadasha. You've watched multiple videos about people telling you how tough this Mahadasha is. Well, I won't disagree with them. But in this video, we will also discuss that what do we as natives can do to encounter those challenges that are thrown at us. The Ketu Mahadasha, my friends, is a period of about 7 years. 7 years where Ketu comes in to teach us certain lessons. Lessons that are from past karmas. Lessons that are going to shape our personality. Lessons that will change your mental state. Lessons that might shake your confidence but help you emerge out as a more strong person. Well, the story of Swarbhanu is something that you would have already heard of, and I will not deep dive into it. But as it says that there was this demon Swarbhanu who was there during the the entire battle between the gods and the demons during Samudra Manthan. And he was the one who went ahead and actually tasted what Amrit would be like, because he wanted to be inevitable. Well, Lord Vishnu took it upon himself to kill Swarbhanu, and the demon was separated into two parts. The headless part of the body was known as Ketu, and the head in itself was known as Rahu. Rahu and Ketu, they always move in an axis, and we've done detailed videos about these two planets, shadow planets rather, where we've talked about the big transit that is coming up. If you've not had a chance, I will urge you guys to check out those videos as well. Now, talking about the Ketu Mahadasha. Well, there is a certain purpose with which Ketu operates in our chart. It has come here to teach us the karmic lessons. Now, what does karmic lesson actually mean? Because a lot of people talk about karmic lessons, but nobody tends to elaborate on them. See, we as human souls have been given so much power when compared to any other living being on the planet. We have this sense of awakening, or at least that power is given to us that we can awaken ourselves. But what is happening is that we are getting lost in the world of materialism. We tend to forget that whilst we are working for our own gains, how we are harming others. It could be Mother Nature. It could be your relationships. It could be, how you connect with plants and animals in itself. The purpose of human beings' existence is not just about materialism, but somehow over a period of time, that is how things have shaped. And we do not take just one birth. It's a cycle. You're born as a human today, you take birth in the form of some other living form, and then other, and your soul translates in eternity to reach its ultimate goal of moksha. But through the course of this journey of your soul, there are certain deeds that we do in different forms of life which tend to accumulate. And friends, I've told you, it gets accumulated and can be seen through your 5th house in your natal chart. So what happens? Those karmas that you've accumulated over a period of time, Ketu takes it on himself to come and remind you about those karmic debts that you're carrying, and see that have you learned any lessons or not, or at least tries to revise you with those chapters of cosmic life through this 7-year period. So Ketu is very clever. We'll start with the first phase itself. Ketu Mahadasha and Ketu Antardasha. The Ketu Mahadasha Antardasha period of Ketu is a period of 4 months and 27 days. Now, what can you expect? Most obvious signs that you would notice in your life is that there will be some kind of sudden change, a trigger. And that trigger could be external or internal. External examples is you're working in a job, there could be an incredibly amazing, interesting offer. Or there could be a shock that you're about to lose your job. If you're in a relationship, you discover something that is hurtful. Or you are not able to understand the person or the relationship that you are in. If you are in a particular place, location. See, we need to understand it from a continuum of time and space as well. So you get dislocated from one place to another, sudden movement that comes into your life, and you're not able to anticipate if it is for good or for bad. But there are certain changes that get induced during this Ketu period in your life. These changes are actually throwing you off the sphere. They are throwing you off your comfort zone, and you suddenly start questioning the reality of everything. But you must remember, these external outer triggers are triggers of your own deeds from the past that you may or may not have taken a note of. There is a definite shift in your relationship, a definite shift at your job, at your workplace, in your place of residence. All of those things are happening because there is certain activity or action that you had taken in your own life and just moved on, but it is now coming back in certain different shape or form and triggering that in front of you. So in this Ketu period, the obvious thing that you have to notice that there will be a trigger, there will be an incident, a circumstance that will come into life that will shock the hell out of you. I'm sorry to speak that language, but that's the reality of the arrival of the Ketu Mahadasha Antardasha in your life. It's a short period of 4 months, everything gets disrupted. What happens next?
Let J-Lo go. It's just